This is a spiritual journey for me. I reached my decision through deep prayer, through hard-nosed logic, and I asked myself, what choices must I make to maximize my chances to save America's children and restore national health? I felt that if I refused this opportunity, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror, knowing that I could have saved lives of countless children and reversed this country's chronic disease epidemic. I'm 70 years old. I may have a decade to be effective. I can't imagine that President Harris would allow me or anyone to solve these dire problems. After 8 years of President Harris, any opportunity for me to fix the problem will be out of my reach forever. President Trump has told me that he wants this to be his legacy. I'm choosing to believe that this time he will follow through. His son, his biggest donors, his closest friends, and all support this objective. My joining the Trump campaign will be a difficult sacrifice for my wife and children, but worthwhile if there's even a small chance of saving these kids. Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other. That's why I launched my campaign to unify America. My dad and uncle made such an enduring mark on the character of our nation, not so much because of any particular policies that they promoted, but because they were able to inspire profound love for our country and to fortify our sense of ourselves as a national community held together by ideals. They were able to put their love into the intentions and hearts of ordinary Americans and to unify a national populist movement of Americans, Blacks and whites, Hispanics, urban and rural Americans. They inspired affection and love and high hopes and a culture of kindness that continue to radiate among Americans from their memory. That's the spirit on which I ran my campaign and that I intend to bring into the campaign of President Trump. Instead of vitriol and polarization, I will appeal to the values that unite us, the goals that we could achieve if only we weren't at each other's throats. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. If we all unite around that issue now, we can finally give them the protection, the health, and the future that they deserve. Thank you all very much.
There it is. A thing of beauty. It is now official. The merger is complete, or the merger has just begun, either way you want to look at it. But now we have it. Kennedy, Trump on the same team officially going into the 2024 presidential election. Couldn't ask for a better story to be told. And there's only one thing missing, and we all know what that is what happens in November in a fair and balanced election. This I did not see coming at all, especially, I mean, this was always the goal for me. I was always wanting to see them work together, to do something magical together, a president and a vice president. And I understand, where we're at right now. It's still kind of shocking, but it's great. It's in a really good way. I'm really happy about it. I'm going to play a little bit more and get to the main event, to the main thing that I really want to cover. But maybe we'll start with the announcement, the official announcement. I do want to talk a little bit about, his family, and I guess there's already some reactions to that too. But before we get there, I can go find that, I'm sure. Let's look at this. This is from Kennedy24.com. Check it. Okay. Phoenix, Arizona, August 23rd, 2024. It's today. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today announced in an address to the nation in Phoenix, Arizona, he is suspending his campaign. Kennedy will remain on the ballot in most of the states for which she has qualified. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, Kennedy said, I will remove my name and urge voters not to vote for me. Interesting play here. In his speech, Kennedy described the considerations that led him to pull out. First was the censorship, the media blockade, and legal warfare that kept his message from reaching vast swaths of the electorate. Second was the fact that many of his core issues have been adopted by Donald Trump. Kennedy said, last summer it looked like no candidate was willing to negotiate a quick end to the Ukraine war, to tackle the chronic disease epidemic, to protect free speech and restore our constitutional freedoms, to clean corporate influence out of government, or to defy the neocons and their agenda of endless military adventurism. But now one of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked to enlist me in his administration to tackle those issues. I am speaking, of course, of Donald Trump. Kennedy went on to describe the existential threat posed by these issues and declared his intention to join President Trump's cabinet to address them. He concluded his address with a call for unity. Ultimately, the only thing that will save our children and our country is if we choose to love them more than we hate each other. You can read the full transcript. I definitely want to down that if they have that. That's really cool. Like how they have the full transcript. I'm going to put that in the chat, I think, here. Why not? Okay, that is now in the chat while I go and look for a few other things. Just a very good day, very interesting day. I'm going to look at Kennedy because one of the things that I was kind of worried about was what his wife would do. How would that work out? Because it seemed like he even made a comment at one point, like, he was asked if he would be a part of the Trump administration. He says, he said that I don't think my marriage would survive it. And obviously, that was a big concern. It should be for any husband. But then he also goes, and this is what he says and what she says. So first I'll look at what she says. Cheryl Hines. Make sure this is working. Looks like it is. Okay. This is from Cheryl Hines, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s wife. This was posted today, August 23rd, 2024, at 12:28 p.m. Pacific Time. 7.4 million views. This is what she says. The decision has been made to suspend my husband's, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s presidency, and I'd like to extend a sincere, deeply heartfelt thank you to every person who has worked so tirelessly and lovingly on his campaign. They have accomplished feats that were said to be impossible. They have gathered over 1 million signatures, more than any candidate in history, and have achieved ballot access across the country despite the roadblocks and lawsuits that have been brought against them for the sole purpose of keeping Bobby off of the ballots so no one would even have the opportunity to vote for him. I deeply respect the decision Bobby made to run on the principle of unity. Over the last year and a half, I have met some extraordinary people from all parties, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. It's been my experience that the vast majority of all parties are truly good people who want the best for our country and for each other. It has been an eye-opening, transformative, and endearing journey. So that's what Kennedy's wife posted. So it sounds good. Seems good. And then Kennedy just added a little something here because he reposted it here. He says, I am so grateful to my amazing wife, Cheryl, for her unconditional love, as I made a political decision with which she is very uncomfortable. I wish this also for the country. Love and unity, even in the face of disagreement. We will need that in coming times. Very powerful. And again, for me, Trump 2024, Kennedy 28. But Kennedy 24, I believe, has nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be embarrassed about. They conquered. They did everything that they needed to make sure that this was a fair and balanced election on their side. They did everything right. It was just the system, the two-party system, that was just at this time it's just not the right time. I don't believe this is the last time RFK Jr. will run for president. I think he will run again. I think he will run again, hopefully in 2028, if the Democrats can get their stuff together, or else I'd like to see this third party venture go on and really get something big where they have a real strong third party, almost like a Super Bowl of third parties. That thing goes on. And I hear there's something like that happening, they're working on something like that. All right. So, with that being said, where am I? I'm going to go and play a little bit of this. This is really good. Yeah, I'm just going to skip right to it, I think. Let's get right into it. It happened today. I can't tell you how long I've been waiting for this moment. I did not think it was going to happen. I really didn't. I thought it was done. We'd never see this, and we did. So, I'm getting a little echo there. Okay, here it is. I'm going for it. Let's play a little bit of this.
But they threw him out. You know, they ran against each other for the primary, and she never even made it to the first state, the great state of Iowa. Never made it. And now she's the one running. A little strange, isn't it? You see, that's really a threat to democracy if you get right down to it, right? In our movement, we know that democracy does not mean rule by the Democrat establishment. It means rule by the American people. Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome a man who has been an incredible champion for so many of these values that we all share, and we've shared them for a long time. I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person.
He always says this.
But he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Beautiful. Perfect song, too.
Man, whoa.
Just chills.
And he deserves it. He deserves it. For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been allowed to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in. They put up rules. I've never seen rules like he had to have 65% of the vote in order to run, you know, little things like that. His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And I know that they are looking down right now and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth? And I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got applause like he just got. I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that. Amazing. It's true. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that. And I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life.
Just to pause a little bit, because this is very important here, because this is, I think, this is the plan. This was the plan in 2016, and for whatever reason that didn't happen. By the way, Kennedy has a book coming out. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to come out in September or October. It's been pushed back, unless I'm just imagining that it was supposed to come out earlier. But it's not coming out till March of 2025. So I don't remember that always being the case. I know I talked about it on a past show. I'll have to go back and listen and see exactly when that book was coming out. But so I'm just wondering if he's revising it now for what's happening here, for this historical day with these two very powerful forces joining forces for the greater good. I mean, this is awesome. And Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Iron Man, Captain America, whatever. It's good stuff. And I'm just glad to see it, glad to watch it. It still doesn't feel real, but it is. It's not AI. But the plan was for Kennedy to run, I believe, the HHS or something, and then you got guys like Fauci involved, Jared Kushner involved, and that didn't happen. So take two. We'll see. Whatever the plan was in 2016, let's see if they can pull it off in 2024 by announcing it and doing what they're doing. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough road, and the enemy list just got a lot bigger now. And combined. It's a good thing they combined their forces for good, but they've also now combined their enemies. We'll see how that goes. But if any two guys can stand up to it, these two guys can.
So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this. He is a brilliant, I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. You know, a few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida. And we talked about, not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food? And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption? And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted. He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy. He said he didn't want any more $200 billion wars in Ukraine, that we could use that money back here in the United States. And the safest, the best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country. And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country?
This is great. This is fascinating stuff, I think. I hope you're as fascinated by it as I am. Maybe it's just me, but this is just I don't know. It's better than what I could hope for. It's I can't try to think, is this better than him running as Kennedy as Trump's vice president? And I kind of think, yeah, it is. It is. Both of these guys made a few missteps. It wasn't really much. Both of their vice presidential nominees weren't too impressive. At least I wasn't too impressed with them. I didn't really know them either. But as I got to know and learn or read more about Vance and about Shanahan, Nicole Shanahan, the more that I liked them both. So this dream team idea seems good. Steve Bannon's probably really happy with this too. While he's I think he's sitting in prison right now, right? But he was talking about the unity ticket between these two people. And somebody, when Kennedy first announced that he was running as a Democrat, I think there was like already all the stuff out there about the unity party with Kennedy and Trump. And I just ran with it. I thought that's perfect. That's exactly what this is. So somebody got that right. Somebody's been working on that, grooming that, building that. Who knows for how long? Definitely 2016, 2015, 2016. But again, what the plan was and what the plan is and what they're talking about are the real issues. You don't hear them talk. You hear Kennedy talk about this stuff a lot. You don't hear Trump talk too much about the neocons and getting rid of that faction. But it's the same people that are after him. It's the New World Order. The swamp is just another name for the shadow government, for the NWO, whatever you want to call it. The most generalist terms are probably the more accurate because of how these things operate. This evil construct is so big, you could have evil working in tandem with them without even knowing it. That's how crazy this stuff is. Just all working for, whether they know it or not, for the one evil one, the devil. And here we have a big spiritual battle going on. Just like Kennedy said in that first clip, this was a spiritual battle here. When Trump and Kennedy talked after Trump almost got killed. So Trump sounded like he had his own spiritual awakening. And they add Kirk Cameron in there, and life is good. It's all good. He got all three of these guys. But this is great. I couldn't be happier. I'm so impressed, so happy. I just don't want this moment to end here. It's a good moment.
And he told me that he wanted to end the censorship because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information.
Because they've been going after both of these guys in the exact same way, as you all know. Anyone who's paying attention knows this. So the people who hate Trump can relate to him on that. They can hate Kennedy for a lot of the same things. And then the people who love Trump can love Kennedy on the same things because they agree on a lot of stuff. This is a fascinating turn of events for me. I'm just still kind of in shock. A good shock.
And we know that a government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And can you think of any time that you can look back in history and say that the people who were censoring were the good guys? They're always the bad guys, because it's always the first step down that slippery slope to totalitarianism. And don't you want a president who's going to protect America's freedoms? And who is going to protect us against totalitarianism? And I want to ask you again, don't you want a safe environment for your children? you want to know that the food that you're feeding them is not filled with chemicals that are going to give them cancer and chronic disease. And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
It's beautiful.
Thank you all very, very much. And God bless you. And God bless America.
There it is, the embrace. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, I'm gonna go find some things. That's a good one. Oh.
Wow, that was something, huh? That was something. Fantastic guy. You know, he did well, and the polls are good and all, but you have to remember we have sort of like a two-party system. It was designed that way, and it's awfully tough. And as well as he did, he'd be at 10 and 15 and 16 points sometimes. That's a lot. That's a lot.
20, 22.
But if he were in a regular system, like as a Democrat or perhaps as a Republican, but not against me, of course. But if he were in a regular system, there are a lot of people that maybe liked him the best, but they said, we can't vote. So with all of those votes he was getting, he has a lot of votes that he could have gotten. I think he's going to have a huge influence. We're leading now, but I think he's going to have a huge influence on this campaign.
Yeah, he's right. I think that's a good place to stop that part there. I don't think he's gonna
Actually
talk
much
about
bigger than you'd see in the polls. And those numbers are big to start off with, but Bobby and I will fight together to defeat the corrupt political establishment and return control of this country to the people. And all who supported Bobby's campaign, I very simply ask you join us in building this coalition. It's a beautiful coalition in defense of liberty and safety, prosperity and peace.
Trump tried to do the same thing with the Libertarian Party, and I'm glad it worked with RFK. I'm not too disappointed it didn't work with the Libertarian Party.
It's going to be an incredible coalition, and the relationship has been so good for so long. I have no doubt it's going to work and work well. But we have to win.
So I'm going to go to this now, Kudlow. I want to find the clip. I haven't heard it yet, but there is a clip out there of Kennedy's family responding. You can imagine how that's going to go. Let me play this because I do like Kudlow. Play a little. I don't know how much of this.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. Well, Robert Kennedy has endorsed Donald Trump and has all but stomped out Kamala Harris's news value from last night's DNC convention speech. We are going to try to cover it all. It's a fast-breaking news day. First up, here are the hard-hitting points from Robert Kennedy's endorsement of Mr. Trump, and that is the subject of the riff. So Kamala Harris gave a reasonably well-presented speech last night at the DNC, but of course it was full of platitudes and any number of lies about Donald Trump's record, and she worked overtime to hide her ultra-liberal progressivism and her big government socialism. But unfortunately for her, the big news today comes from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has just endorsed Donald Trump. And in a sense, Mr. Kennedy just wiped out Kamala's DNC speech from the news cycle altogether. And Kennedy's logic was particularly hard-hitting and well put together. First up, he said he's throwing his support to President Trump because, and I will quote, the causes were free speech, war in Ukraine, and the war on our children, end quote. And then he blasted the Democratic Party for its legal warfare against President Trump and himself. Take a listen to this.
The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail.
Wow. Boy, he laid that right out straight, didn't he? And then he mocked all the Democratic celebrity speakers at their convention by noting they mentioned Donald Trump 47 times just on the first day. And I'll quote, "Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate?" End quote. And then Ms. Kennedy goes on to say, quote, "President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days at the Republican convention." But there's more than just Mr. Kennedy's frustration with the undemocratic Democratic Party. Here's Robert Kennedy on foreign policy. Take a listen.
We've pushed Russia into a disastrous alliance with China and Iran. We're closer to the brink of nuclear exchange than at any time since 1962. And the neocons in the White House don't seem to care at all.
And he also put a word in for King Dollar. Take a listen.
Our moral authority and our economy are in shambles. And the war gave rise to the emergence of BRICS, which now threatens to replace the dollar as the global reserve currency. This is a first-class calamity for our country.
Well, you got that completely right. Isn't it something on the economy? Now, it turns out Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Trump have had several meetings in recent weeks, and Kennedy outlined a number of issues where he has made common cause with President Trump. Take a listen.
We are aligned with each other on other key issues like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans and interfering with our elections.
Very hard-hitting stuff. Very populist stuff. Now, they don't agree on everything by a long shot, but it is interesting on how many things they do agree on and how plain spoken and direct Mr. Kennedy put it out there. Fascinating to me. Now, as RFK Jr. News filtered out, the pay-to-play betting markets have posted a 51 to 48% lead for Mr. Trump over Ms. Harris. Not only has Kennedy News stepped on and nearly buried any of the Kamala speech news from last night, basically, there was nothing much in serious policy terms coming out of that speech. Speech was well delivered, no question about that. But she lied about Mr. Trump on a number of cases. She lied about cutting Medicare and Social Security. He said 1 million times he won't. She lied about Trump backing this Project 2025 agenda. He said 1 million times he doesn't know anything about it, doesn't support it. She lied about Trump wanting a national ban.
Believe it. All right. Let me see if there's any. I think there was one other. I can't find the video. Maybe there is no video. I wanted to see about the family. Kennedy's family, I guess, made some type of a statement against him, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not finding it. I don't know. Let's see if Newsmax has anything.
Are you having a good time?
Nope. Come on. I tried to do a search for it, but couldn't find anything. I guess a good place to end is probably just with good old Fox News there. Gutfield. I don't want to end with Hannity. I don't care what Hannity has to say about any of this. That guy is such a blowhard. I just can't stand them. And now, Jesse Waters, I may want to watch that one. Jesse Waters and let's go to Fox News. Jesse Waters and Gutfield. I do want to hear what they have to say about this. Otherwise, I will bid you adieu. Speaker. Okay. Oh, what is Gutfield? I thought they said. Oh no, it's a 5 where they talked about it. Okay, we play that. They must have just come out. Yeah.
K Jr. is spoiling Kamala's post-DNC party. He's dropping out of the race for president and endorsing Donald Trump for president.
In my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory. The chronic disease crisis was one of the primary reasons for my running for president, along with ending censorship in the Ukraine war. It's the reason I've made the heart-wrenching decision to suspend my campaign and to support President Trump. We are aligned on many key issues. In those meetings, he suggested that we join forces as a unity party.
RFK Jr. is in the same state as Donald Trump, Arizona, and the former president has been teasing that a special guest will be joining him later at a rally tonight in Phoenix. Earlier, Trump offering nothing but praise for RFK.
We just had a very nice endorsement from RFK Jr., Bobby. We're going to be going to Arizona. We'll be talking about that and a lot of other things too. But I just want to thank everybody. And I want to thank Bobby. That was very nice. That was really very nice. That's big. He's a great guy, respected by everybody.
All right, Jesse. You know, what was most interesting about RFK's speech was how he literally took down the Democrat Party as the party of censorship, the party that did everything to, you know, negate free speech, that sued him, that fought him, that ridiculed him, that engaged in lawfare. He makes a decision, though, to drop out only in the primary states, it seems. So will that little bit help Donald Trump?
The Trump campaign is saying this helps Trump. They're saying in the 7 battlegrounds, he was polling between 3% and 5%. And if those votes now go away, they say Trump gets about 60% of those compared to what Harris would have gotten. And that translates to this, Judge, and this is big. In Arizona, that would mean 41,000 additional votes towards Donald Trump. That's like a lot bigger than the margin last time.
Right.
In Georgia, almost 20,000 more votes for Donald Trump. You remember how tight these margins are. These little shifts can really play a big role. Apparently, he went to the Harris campaign and flirted with them and said, hey, you know, you want an endorsement? Because, you know, maybe I could get a cabinet position. And then she just went dark. So he went to the Trump campaign. I don't know if he's going to get a cabinet position. Knowing Trump, he may dangle something and then never give it, or give him something and, you know, Trump likes the action. That could be interesting to see RFK Jr. in a Trump administration. But Harris is saying, oh, you know, it's no big deal. That's not true. The number.
So I'm not convinced that Kennedy went to the Harris campaign at all. He has denied it. Jesse Waters knows better. He's been very fair to RFK Jr. So he knows better than to just, I don't know where that information is coming from. I don't know what's true or not, but I know what Kennedy said, and he said that that is not true at all. But they never denied reaching out to Trump or, you know, talking with the Trump campaign. They said that they were open to talk to anyone, but nothing about a cabinet position or anything. And it was already out there with Trump because it's been out there since 2016. And I'm so glad that we're here now to wrong those things. Sometimes you watch something and it comes full circle. And I feel like that's where the Kennedy and Trump relationship is coming right now. It's all coming full circle. Let me go back to this. But Jesse Waters, he knows better. Come on.
Speak for themselves.
Well, you know, Katie, Harris refused to meet with him. And he said, I mean, RFK was clear. There's a lot of things that he disagrees with Donald Trump on. And so it kind of speaks to this idea that the Democrats are so full of joy and unity. And yet Harris wouldn't even meet with him. And yet Donald Trump, who's supposed to be this hater, was willing to sit down with him apparently several times where they hashed out some of the issues. Speaks more for Donald Trump than the Democrats.
Yeah, it's a reflection of the Republican side of the political aisle willing to at least have a conversation about issues that they disagree with. Democrats just put up a stiff arm and don't want to talk about any of it. RFK Jr. shouldn't take it personally because Kamala Harris doesn't really meet with anybody.
That's so true, though, because Trump did meet with the libertarians. He went to the Libertarian Convention. They were a little bit hostile. They were all right, though. And Trump is not afraid to go into enemy territory. But dealing with RFK Jr., they are definitely on the same team. It's just like bread and butter, peanut butter and jelly, maybe wine in a wine glass. I don't know.
We're going to talk about that later in the show. But in terms of the numbers, Jesse's absolutely right. If you look at these swing states now, endorsements don't necessarily turn into votes. There's a lot of third-party candidates get votes from people who don't want to vote at all now because they don't agree with voting for either party, and that's fine. But in terms of swing states where elections are decided by very, very slim margins, thousands of votes, maybe tens of thousands of votes, he's looking pretty good in a lot of these states. Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin. Virginia is a really interesting one. He was taking up about 8% of the vote there. And if he gets some of those voters to go from him to Donald Trump, he could potentially win Virginia, especially since it's a very popular state in terms of who the governor is. But I think the most important thing is everybody's been trying to frame him like some kooky third-party candidate. Listen to what he actually has to say. Listen to what Nicole Shanahan, who was his vice presidential candidate, has to say about the censorship, about why they left the Democratic Party, about why is it that they were so afraid to have him even on the ballot, why they're suing to keep his name off of the ballot. That doesn't seem very democratic. You might even argue that that's how you win elections, but it's certainly not how you should operate as a party that claims to be standing up for democracy.
And, you know, Jessica, he wasn't just talking about, being sued, but he talked about real censorship in a portal that was set up in the White House with the FBI, the DHS, the CIA, where all the information about him came in. Look, the fact that the Democrats wouldn't even give him Secret Service protection when his own father and uncle were assassinated. I mean, it really, he took down the Democrat Party, talked about the military-industrial complex and the war.
See, the lady in the blue is they always got to have just one person who's like the Democrat hack, and she's terrible. This is going to be bad. Let's go.
That go on that didn't go on when Donald Trump was there.
Well, he didn't take down the Democratic Party. If the election was held today, it's a coin flip and probably advantage Harris. So we seem to be doing okay without him. And his values do not coincide with our values anymore. He's willing to betray things that were core to who he is. You knew him from Westchester, an environmental lawyer, someone who cares deeply about saving the planet from climate change, something that Donald Trump doesn't care about at all. He's someone who purports to care about a woman's right to choose. Donald Trump sent it back to the states. There are women bleeding out with,
Okay.
Oh, okay. I get
but that's not.
But it is. That's why Harris wouldn't meet with him.
Why? Why she didn't meet with him? She doesn't talk to anybody. Who are you kidding?
I'm not kidding anyone. I'm being truthful about it. He is anti-vax, which is dangerous.
No, he's not.
And
he's not completely anti-vax.
He's just 90% anti-vax.
No, he is not.
Listen,
were you happy you got the vaccine from COVID? I mean, really?
Yeah, I was. I had it one time.
That's great. And force everyone else to do what you want to do.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, you said, Donald Trump's supposed to be a hater, but look at him.
That's great.
And, he extended an olive branch. He did it because, like Kamala Harris said, he has only ever served one client, himself. This is what he said about RFK just in April. I'd even take Biden over Jr. His views on vaccines are fake in all caps, as is everything else about his candidacy. Let the Democrats have RFK Jr. They deserve him.
All right, well, Jessica, she called Biden a racist and then joined his ticket. People do that in politics.
Okay. I'm just saying that it is. He knows that he can have a better shot at winning by taking him on. There's nothing genuine about this. It's not because he's good-hearted.
Donald Trump thinks. What do you think, Tyrus?
Well, the reason why she's not going to talk to him is because all he wants to talk about is policy. And we're still waiting to hear those things. I think you can have a meeting, and they've had several meetings or a couple of meetings, and they aired out their differences, how the political process used to be. Two people who see things very differently. They sit down, they find common ground. Like, we don't agree on this and we agree on this. Unfortunately, we don't have it. Do I think there needs to be more candidates when we make a choice? Yeah, I would love to see a 4-party system or a 3-party system. I think the reason why not only did he not want to be the deciding factor in the swing states is that he also wants to recognize that you can challenge the status quo. He had over 1 million people. He's done things, not to the level, I'd say, a Ross Perot, but he's definitely got the idea of being a third candidate in the Americans. We're all thinking about it now. So it might not serve him in terms of what he's going to do as far as being a president or that, but it is going to make a lot of people start thinking, you know what, maybe we should form our own party and things like that. So I think he's done a lot of good. And I think it was a mistake, a tactical mistake not to meet with him, because if they would have met with him, maybe they would have came with the same thing. Because you could ask Hillary about the green vote. You know what I'm saying?
Jill
And even
Stein
then,
is, yeah.
So shumming off the extra party and you lose Arizona, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. So it was a good thing. Trump did what Democrats won't do, because to Judge's point, she won't talk to anybody.
Leave it to an NWA wrestler, a professional wrestler, to really break it down for you. Tyrus, world heavyweight champion. Just saying. Always goes back to the wrestling references, and Tyrus is right on. All right, am I going to be a little brave here? Because that conversation was before Kennedy showed up on stage. Then maybe we'll look at what happens after Kennedy shows up on stage here. If that, I don't know if that would have happened. Well, yeah, it doesn't look like any of these are when Kennedy shows up on stage. Well, we'll see. Let me go. I'm just going to play this.
You just heard from former President Donald Trump in
There it is.
Glendale, Arizona, who promised a special guest tonight. And unlike Kamala, he actually delivered. A Kennedy, not the type of guy you'd expect to see at a MAGA rally. But today,
The Kennedy.
he shook up the presidential race by announcing he was suspending his campaign and endorsing Trump.
Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome a man who has been an incredible champion for so many of these values that we all share, and we've shared them for a long time.
By the way, this is like one of the only times where Trump's feed is invaded by radiated forces like this. This usually doesn't happen at a Trump speech, at a Trump rally. So the cameras are always really good. I got to go check the RSBN. Maybe the RSBN has the good camera there, unless they're all going from the same feed.
Time. I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low key.
Trump is famous for saying that. Have you ever heard of him? Before people act like, oh, Trump was doing a dig at RFK Jr., Trump will say, this guy named Donald J. Trump, have you ever heard of him? So he's done this same joke with himself, and not just with people he wants to take a jack. Because if you don't know their relationship, if you haven't seen every Trump speech since 2016, like I have, you may not get some of the sarcastic references or the punchline. You may not understand the punchline, like what happens to my wife with a lot of comedy.
He's a very low key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person.
Worst
I've known
camera
him for
work
so
ever.
long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah. Music is perfect too.
I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got applause like he just got. I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that.
RFK Jr. had some thoughts. Listen.
Call from the president. And we talked about, not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food?
Good.
And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption?
Yeah, let's give that a shot.
And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
Miga.
The Republican Party is united, plus the Kennedy faction and any independents he brings along for the ride.
Maha.
Kennedy's not the one who abandoned the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party abandoned him.
I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights. I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money.
Democrats used to be the party of democracy, and now they're hiding an ailing president, orchestrating a palace coup, and anointing a puppet who's never won a single primary. RFK Jr.'s running mate, she knows the deal.
Kamala Harris is dangerous to me because she is the ultimate puppet for an organization that has, I believe, since President Obama, not actually run real people.
Mm-hmm.
They have selected amongst a very small group of individuals that they can control and dictate policy over.
Kennedy dropping out and endorsing Trump could spoil the machine's party. They can't argue with Kennedy and what he's saying, so they attacked the medical condition that afflicts his voice.
This was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And trying to get any logic out of that is good luck with that. Because it's, one, you can't understand what he says. Two, if you can't understand what he says. And reminded of a line in Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles when somebody gets up and gives an indecipherable speech. He says, who can argue with that? That's authentic frontier gibberish.
The Trump campaign says in the battlegrounds, where RFK has been polling between 3% and 5%, his vote will split and break for Trump. In states like Arizona, RFK leaving translates to about 40,000 votes swinging to Republicans, 20,000 swinging to Republicans in Georgia. Now, last election, those states were decided by a lot less. If this election's
that
a
brings up
squeaker,
something.
the RFK factor could decide it.
Yeah.
This could squeak.
That brings up something. The states, he hasn't really announced what these 10 states are or about the 10 states that he is going to take his name off of the ballot on. That's going to be very key because I wonder if those are going to be some of the same states that Trump had shenanigans happen in 2020. If it's the same 6, and first it was 10, now he's saying 6 or 7 is really what they're worried about here. Not worried about, but like it could swing it in such a crazy way. Well, we'll see. Anyways, just wanted to make sure that I put that note out there before we get to this nutbag. I guess, I got to listen to him. Okay.
The RFK factor could decide it.
This could squeak. This could be the toughest election because if Pennsylvania doesn't go the Democratic way and North Carolina doesn't go that way, it's tough. It's really tough.
Now, a honeymoon ends when a couple has their first fight. RFK Jr. dropping out might have been Kamala's first fight. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interview.
Don't know what that means, but I think that's a good place to end this here. Can't think of anything else. Let me just look at, I guess don't have to go through, look at the map anymore. The Kennedy map. Let's just go and look at that one last time just because I've been doing it for so long. It's one last rodeo, and I forget where it is. It's in a weird place. Here, state site director, I think is what it is. No. It's somewhere in here. There's somewhere in here that you can see the whole shebang and shaboodle. Signed petition. Oh, I think it's Ballot Access HQ. Yeah, here we go. So it looks good, but I'm very curious about what these 10 states are, these 10 key states that they're talking about, because he's right there. There's 538. He's already at 517 as far as doing everything that he could do to follow the process legally. I still hope he sues, and I still hope he goes after these people, the Democrat Party, and all these people that are coming after him. Three things they should put Kennedy in charge of, in my opinion. Hey, Rick, how are you, my friend? Three things they should put Kennedy in charge of: this committee for the assassinations, to look into the assassinations, anything to do with human health in this country. But also, how about, and censorship? I guess three would be censorship. 4 would be election interference and election integrity. You put Kennedy in charge of those 4 things there, and you got something very, very powerful. You got the dream team in action. And it's crazy. I'm still kind of shocked, still kind of reeling from it, trying to understand it, trying to process it, because it's better than I hoped for. I try to keep a positive attitude, especially when it looks really bad. It looks kind of dark, and everything looks kind of bleak. But you kind of still feel like, no, they could do this. He could do this. And so, seeing Kennedy, knowing what Trump said, that Kennedy, in a fair election, Kennedy could have done something. He could have won. He could have beaten Biden, and then it would be Kennedy and Trump, which would have been the ultimate showdown. I don't know about you, Rick, but I don't want to see Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair tag team against 2 other guys. I want to see Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan fight each other, right? The ultimate fight. The Rock and Stone Cold. Nobody wants to see them on the same team. They want to see them going after each other. So I don't know. It's kind of like you were expecting the main event. You knew that wasn't going to happen. Okay, maybe it's going to be a triple threat. And then now we're like at a tag team here. A tag team. Kind of 3-on-2 if you throw in JD Vance. I don't know. Let's see. Rick says, stop it. YT does not censor you and your conspiracy. Yeah, they don't censor at all. No, there's no censorship. So, and that's what Kennedy will find, right? If it's the truth, he'll find that out. No, hey, they've been doing a great job. In 2020, we had the most perfect election, just like the FBI said. The same FBI that took out John F. Kennedy or helped take him out, and the same FBI that failed with so many other things that happened, from the Boston bombing on and on and on. You could just look at Kennedy, at everything where the FBI's fingerprints are. But they said 2020 was the most perfect election, and so that's it. It's cool. It's done. So, with that being, I don't know where I was going with that, Rick. You threw me off on that one, but I definitely appreciate it. But if you put Kennedy in charge of these things, of these basic things, but the censorship, because you can't have him investigating and you can't have them all talking about topics like this when YouTube, Facebook, and everybody else is going to censor it. All I did was tried to replay a video that Kennedy put out there called Town Hall Boomers Town Hall. And that's all he was doing, was just trying to speak to the boomers. It was a 59-minute clip, right? So I was going to replay it on my channel. It didn't even make it there, and I got a strike. It never went live. It never made it to where the video actually could play. At least sometimes, you stream it once and, it gets a strike or something. This time it was, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll try to upload it. I won't make it public. It's not like, it's like in that draft phase, just to see how they react to it. This was the first video that YouTube reacted by giving me a strike, letting the strike is active for 90 days. There's no chance to, I think I did try to challenge it, but you're not going to win on a medical misinformation strike on YouTube. You're just not going to win on that. But it was like, I didn't even upload the video. It's in draft mode. That's it. If they would have said this violates something, I wouldn't have made it public. So how do they give me a strike for a video that never went public? I thought that was pretty interesting. And that's why I've been very careful this year, because I want to make sure that I'd love to live stream on November 5th, on the day that we vote, and maybe even possibly throughout the whole next day. I think that would be fun to just kind of follow it and watch it and document it. I think it would be great. So, but so I've been trying to be very careful, and so that strike just came out of nowhere. Thankfully, it's only one RKO out of nowhere, strike out of nowhere. But thankfully, it's only one. So, but I can't get another one between now and the day that we vote, and I'm sure that it's going to happen again. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. Not going to cry about it. If it happens, it happens. There's other channels. I'll go on some other channel there, but I like this channel. This is my second channel. I lost my original channel, but I like this channel. This channel has become kind of my second home here. I actually made this channel because I thought the David Crowley videos were going to get me booted off YouTube. That never happened. It's all good there. He says, "Oh my God, now you think the FBI knows who really killed Kennedy? Go too far, my friend." Yeah, tinfoil hat. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I mean, it's only like books like this here that may make you think twice about JFK. I know you're being facetious here, but you know, Jim Garrison just happened to be a New Orleans district attorney who, you know, is the only reason why we have the Zapruder film and probably some of the other films. And Jim Garrison, the district attorney for New Orleans, was able to get a lot of those documents into a court case, which then made it public knowledge and stuff that the public had to see, had to share. But who knows? Now will be the time, because, you know, everybody was, I think people are still very leery if Trump gets back in. Is he going to release the JFK documents? Well, now it's not just going to be just up to Trump. Now RFK Jr. is going to have a say in that. And I don't think anyone really thinks that RFK Jr. is going to sugarcoat it or just say, we can't release this, we can't release that. It's hard for me to think. But the stuff that they were talking about, it was interesting how RFK mentioned the neocons, but Trump has never, ever used that word or that phrase. I thought that was very interesting too. But I do believe, at least publicly, I should say publicly, but Trump knows who these people are. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows who went after him. He knows what the whole assassination, what the COVID conspiracy, he knows all. He probably knows a lot more than what he's saying. That's my guess. I can't really say for sure. I don't know the man. I had an interview get struck down before it even premiered because the word Mercury was in the title. Oh, I remember that one. I remember you told me about that. You had to re-upload it, I think, and edit that part out. Okay, so you've experienced that too. I've never experienced that before. I usually would put the video in draft just to see if YouTube had any issues with it. And they would always give me copyright note. They would say this one is blocked in here because it shows this video or this audio, and then it'd give me a chance to cut that out before I made it public. Like, dude, the thing isn't even public. If it's not public yet, I don't know. They shouldn't be striking anybody. That's the way I feel. Give us a chance to edit that part out first. But it's going to take somebody, some billionaire or trillionaire, somebody to buy YouTube. Hopefully that will be the next thing. I wish Elon Musk would have bought YouTube instead of Twitter, but it probably got a better price. Probably got a really good deal because Twitter was done. It was done. Oh, great book. Yes, I'm just I know it's a season. I appreciate it. I think it adds to the it always adds to what we're doing here. Speaking of another guy who loves to tease and has humor, this is a great little book. If people haven't read this is called The Humor of JFK. I don't know if you can find this. I found this at my local bookstore used. I got this for like $2, $3. So if you have a local bookstore, if you have half books, if you have some bookstore that people can buy used books, just keep going. You'll find some gems. You'll find some real gems. But this is a good one. The Humor of JFK. You know this is going to be good. And I'm looking forward to this, and just a different side of Kennedy, President Kennedy. But he has a pretty good sense of humor there too. So this is one that I started reading. I was like deep into this, but then I'm like, I gotta write this book. I have so many books that I'm waiting to read, including the one that is right here. But these books are a little more tough for me to read. It's like it's a little, I really got to focus. Can't have kids in the background. This kid's saying this or asking me for this or that. But so I do plan on reading more. But this is a great one. Best evidence, Rick. If you're looking for a recommendation, a good recommendation on the JFK conspiracy, this is a good one. Look into this one. This is a good one here. I may even send you this. When I send you that Bohemian Grove book that I never did, maybe I'll send you this. This is actually, I have this. If you've already read this, I may not send this to you, but this was one. There was one time I was going to do a care package, and I just ran out of money to send the care package to you. But this was one of those books that I was going to send to you. My favorite book. I've read this actual book in my hands probably about 5 or 6 times. It's so good. When I was experimenting with the JFK book, that is just what I have for that book. Is just over the years has merged into so many different things. But that was I was so fascinated by that book that it almost made me not even want to write any book about JFK. He's so good. Book by Jim Garrison. It's just one of my favorite books there. Anyways, do you have that Grow book close by the show? Oh, I don't have it here. I do have it downstairs. But yes, like I was saying, that's weird that you brought that up. But yes, like I was saying, that is on my list to send to you. I'll contact you on Skype about that. I should be able to send that soon. I got about 4 or 5 books that I want to send to you, whether you like them or whether you want to read them or not. I don't know. If you don't like fiction, I'll just save them for someone else. But some of these nonfiction books, I think you may like here. So I'm always like, I got all these books and I get different copies, and I like to read. Like this book, I've tore this book up here, so I'm kind of done with it. But I thought, well, instead of throwing it out or donating it or something, if you haven't read that book, I'll send it to you, or else I'm sure I'll wait till I can find somebody. This is one that I do hope to get to. This is actually the Fitzgeralds and the Kennedys. This one looks really good to me. So again, I don't know. This may be my retirement plan, but just for research, if I ever do want to say, oh, let me go back and look up this, let me go back and look at that. It's like a library. So I keep these books. Probably about half of the books that I own, I probably have read, maybe. And the rest are kind of like waiting, or some I have kind of gone back and forth on. But it's just all time. And when you're writing a book, that's one of the downfalls. For me, it's hard to read that. I read a little bit, page here, page there, and then have to stop because of family things, or just because I want to get to writing my book. I actually want to try to I'm writing 2 books right now at the same time, coinciding with each other. So let's see, I could use any of these books, my friend. I really need some new reading. Oh, good. Okay. All right. I will be in touch here very soon then, because I have a couple other ones. Let me ask you, I have a paperback version of this one. This is one of my favorite books. It almost made me cry at the very end. It's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Talking about his family. He talks about other stuff too. It's some good stuff in here, but I have a paperback version of this book that I think you would really enjoy. So I will try to also send that off to you as well. All right. That may do it. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to get back to writing here. So that's all for now. I'm so fascinated, so shocked by everything that happened. It's just like, it's going to be hard to sleep. It's going to be hard to sleep. It's going to be hard to do anything, but the journey is fun. This will be almost the end of this book, the Kennedy Trump book, because where do you go from here? Once, I guess the only thing we're waiting for is what happens when they win. There will not be a debate between RFK Jr. and Donald Trump. That's the only downfall, I think, that I can find of this whole thing. But I'm hoping that we will have 4 years of a Kennedy and Trump administration. Time will tell. God bless you all. Thank you again. Thank you, my friend. You have a great night too. Glad you caught some of this. And I'm sure we'll be chatting soon. Got a few things, maybe 1 or 2 things privately to talk to you about the Crowley case. Interesting stuff. I'll talk to you later, brother. Okay. And until next time, remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I. Until then.